It's just hard for me to say, but it's true, and it's the feedback that I get from my agents. Our value proposition as a brokerage is me.
So this is where we connect with brokers from all across the country, and the rules of the game are that there really are no rules other than 3 questions per person. Anything goes, kind of like rapid fire, but not really rapid. And it's not meant to stump each other. It's just meant to give glimpses behind the scenes of leadership, lessons, real estate. It could be anything personal. So it's really, really fun. And I'm ready to get rolling as long as you are. Did you get everything shared on your end, Shana?
I did. Well, I hope I did.
Okay.
We'll
Figure it out. Yeah. Okay, well, everybody, I will go last. So I'm going to let Shana give a brief intro. So Shana, tell us who you are, where you're from, anything else that you'd like to share, and then I'll go get started.
All right. So I am Shana O'Brien. I am the broker owner of Cascadian Northwest Real Estate. We're in the Pacific Northwest, serving Southwest Washington and the Portland, Oregon metro area. We're an independent brokerage, no franchise or national affiliation. So we're kind of a dying breed. There's not a lot of mom and pops left out here. I am originally from New Orleans, and I am a broker partner with The Locker Room, which is, if you're not, I'm happy to talk to you about what difference it has made for my business, because it's an incredible opportunity for all of us independent brokers to have some support that we didn't know existed for us. So I'm going to start with my first question for Jake. Are you ready, Jake?
Well, hang on. Let me. No, I get to go first.
I thought you said I was
here.
Go first. Oh.
Hang on a minute.
Ladies first.
It's all good.
First.
Well, that's why I'm letting you go first. I get to let you answer first. Quick intro from me for whatever that's worth. As your host here, my name is Jake.
Well, everybody knows you. You're the Jake Dixon.
Yeah, right. I don't know about all that, but if not, yes, Jake here, not just the host, but also founder, CEO of The Locker Room, as well as co-owner of the TLR Leadership and Coaching Academy, which is now an ICF accredited institution. So if anybody's interested in getting their ICF certification, come hit me up, come talk to me about that. But I've got a background in playing college and professional baseball, hence The Locker Room, father of 2 beautiful girls, married. What else can I tell you? Love being outdoors, fishing, camping, looking for Native American artifacts. That's my hobby, is looking for arrowheads and stuff. So a little bit about me, but we wanted to showcase brokers like Shana across and see what wisdom, what nuggets, what just insights we can gather, because people like her, leaders like her, have so much to share. We've forgotten more than we can remember, and I want to extract some of that out today. So Eddie, thank you so much for your kind comment there. We appreciate you tuning in with us. But I'm going to go first, if that's okay. Can I ask you a question? Because it is ladies first.
Okay.
So I'm going to go first by asking you, and if anybody watches this, hey, maybe you've heard me ask this question a time or two before, but that's okay. I think this is important. I went on a mission last year, Shana, to talk to 100 broker owners, specifically independent broker owners, much like yourself, in 90 days. And I would ask them questions like the following, and many of the answers I got were shockingly similar, that it was kind of superficial, caps and splits and fees. And I know there's more substance to this. So here's my question for you. Let's say I'm an agent in your market that is interviewing brokerages. Share with me what your unique value proposition is that makes you a compelling choice for someone like me who's exploring. Over to you.
Okay, it's a really good question. On top of the things like caps and splits and being competitive in our market, it's just hard for me to say, but it's true, and it's the feedback that I get from my agents, is that a big part of our value proposition as a brokerage is me. I'm a hands-on broker owner. I work one-on-one with every one of our agents. I answer the phone. I answer the questions. I take the calls. And a lot of people that join us are coming from places where they're like, I couldn't get any support. And I have 25 agents. I used to manage a brokerage with 150 agents. I couldn't do this with 150 agents. I can very happily do it with 25 to 40 agents, where I know what's going on in everybody's life. I know when they might need a little extra support. I know who's on vacation and is working with a problem, quote unquote, client and says to me, I really need you to help take care of this client while I'm gone because they're high maintenance. So it feels weird to say I'm my best value proposition, but for our structure and our team, I kind of am. And I'm kind of proud of that, but it's embarrassing to toot your own horn. You know what I mean?
I totally hear where you're coming from on that. So follow-up comment / question here. I go back to a lot of principles. And by the way, there's no right, wrong. I happen to agree and love Shana's stance on this, and putting your humility aside, there's a lot of truth to this because people don't do business with companies by and large in this context, in the world that you and I live in. Now, might you make the argument, well, yeah, I do, Jake. I go to Walmart or whatever my favorite clothing store is or whatever because of the company. Okay, fair. I'm talking in this bubble, this industry that we live in, people by and large do business with the individual, the leader, the person that they know they're going to be interacting with the most, not so much the brand. And statistics show that according to NAR, where 96% of buyers or sellers chose the agent because of the agent, meaning 4% chose the agent they worked with because of the company they're affiliated with. That's what I'm talking about. So Shana, I actually can appreciate and fully understand where you're coming from, even though it's maybe weird or whatever to hear yourself saying that because of how hands-on you are. So my follow-up, if I'm allowed, I'm cheating a little bit here to ask you is, who then is your ideal agent that thrives or you're seeking to add to your brokerage, knowing I can't give that kind of service to everybody? So like if you got a seat at the table, that means something because you're going to get all of me plus the tools and benefits and compensation plan that I know is very competitive to your company. Who would that ideal agent avatar be?
So our ideal agent, I have a very, very specific agent avatar. And it doesn't mean that we don't welcome people that deviate from that avatar. We absolutely do. But primarily the people that are thriving in our model are women. We have several male agents, but we are predominantly all women in our brokerage. And they're generally, almost all of our agents are moms, are dog lovers, are school volunteers, are, hey, I want to, can we do a Saturday at the community cleanup? So we're a very culture and community driven brokerage. Now, that's not to say I have a couple of agents that are super independent and rarely need me. They call me. I have a couple of agents where if I see their phone if I see their name on my phone, I'm like, oh boy, I hope everything's okay, because they are super strong agents running a very independent brokerage or business for themselves within the brokerage. And I don't micromanage them. I invite them and they can choose to be part of the group or not. So, I mean, we have something for almost everyone, but the people that are really at the core of what makes our brokerage special are the people that are very like-minded of regards to being community-oriented service leaders, wanting to help. And it's so hokey. Oh, I got into real estate because I like to help people. Well, I mean, you could also help people being a nurse, being a hairstylist, being a bus driver. We all help people. But a lot of us got into real estate because we want to make a difference. And home ownership is a huge differentiator in our society. It shows across the board in everything. Children whose parents are homeowners do better in school. Employees who are homeowners have better track records at work. It's just a part of our society that is a really big deal. And so when you say, I really want to help people, and then you're helping them with something that is just like super important, those are my people. The people that come to that part of the game with that heart are the people that I want to have the few open seats at our table.
I love that. Yeah. So I'll turn it over to you because I don't want to take up all the show here, but I heard what I'm hearing is alignment, which I think is so important, especially when a broker runs a model the way you do, which is, and I don't mean to be cliche, but very family, very tight knit, very involved in the community. It's like we're serving the community with intention that in turn serves us back when somebody has a real estate need, right? And so I think to protect that culture, it makes me think of Simon Sinek in one of his books when he said, said, the purpose in business is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The purpose is to do business with those who believe what you believe. And I've seen you model that. I've known you for years now, and you will fight like a mama bear to protect that culture and do what it takes to serve the people who have entrusted you, i.e. the agents, to help them create a flourishing real estate sales business. So I just think it's beautiful. And I know you're living by that mantra every day. You're not just bringing in everybody with a pulse who says, ooh, I watched HGTV and I think this is a cool side hustle for me.
Right.
No offense, but that's not necessarily the people you're looking to attract. It's got to be rooted in more substance. So bravo for having such clarity on that.
Thank you.
All right, over to you, sister. Fire away.
So here's my question for you. You have come out of a professional sports background into real estate, through real estate into coaching and leadership. Which was more mentally challenging? The strategy and dedication required to being a professional athlete, or the grit that it's taking right now to run a business?
Wow. I have never been asked a question like that before, Shana. So great job. First of all, awesome question.
It's what I'm super curious about, because I mean,
yeah,
it's big.
You know, you've asked a good question between the amount of silence that you get between the question and the answer. So this is what's happening right now. Okay, I want to give you a thoughtful response. So my answer is going to be the running the business, the second one. And here's why, is not to diminish the blood, sweat, tears, time. I mean, oh my gosh, the grind that goes into performing a sport or anything, frankly, at an elite level that you get paid to do that is not easy, not at all. However, I will say there are certain God gift abilities, body types. God either gave you the arm or he didn't, kind of thing, to reach that level of success. So there's a certain level of natural talent, natural ability that can carry you so far. And a lot of players I have played with and or against, I'm watching on television, not because they didn't put in the time and sweat in the gym. Absolutely, they'd have. Absolutely. There's so much in the mechanics and things that go into it. But I would actually submit the harder of the two is the latter, to your question, the running of the business, being an entrepreneur. The natural talent is not so much an equation there, because a lot of that is skill set development. It's being able to look in the mirror and saying, here's where I struggle. Here's where I fail. Here are my blind spots. These are my weaknesses. And I have to confront those things. I can't just ride on, talent alone. That's only going to get me to a certain level. And I'm, smacking my head against the ceiling. So I think running a business in so many ways requires a lot of intention for skill set development, especially when you're the leader, the owner of a business, which I know you relate with at a high level. It can feel very isolating and lonely. Where if I had a bad game, I could go back in the dugout, back in the locker room, metaphorically speaking, and my team would pick me up. They'd say, hey man, let's go get them next time. We get to play a new game tomorrow. Where in this game, if I have a bad day or a bad week, I'm not saying I don't have a team that would pick me up necessarily, but I'm saying I'm sitting here alone and there's nobody coming to save me, right? And if I don't perform at a high level, I may or may not get another chance to play tomorrow, because I've got to show up every day, put that uniform on, and if it's meant to be, it's up to me, kind of thing. And I don't have teammates that if I go 0 for 4 today batting, my teammate before me or behind me picked me up and drove in the run. I'm trying to make sense with some actual analogies here, but I think that's my answer to your question. It's a great question. I've never been asked before. Essentially, which of the two is harder? I actually do believe that being an entrepreneur, running a business or multiples of businesses is harder in a lot of different ways than getting to an elite level of sports.
I appreciate that answer, because I do feel like being an entrepreneur, it is not for the weak. It's not for the overly sensitive. You've got to be willing to just take your knocks in any business as a business owner. So I appreciate that answer.
Yeah. Great one. All right, my turn. If you're ready. Question number 2. So I want to get a glimpse into your mindset, how you view agents, the industry, performance, leadership, all that kind of rolled into one here. But you and I both know that on the heels of your question, to me, this is hard. This is a hard sport. And we know that because of the failure rate. They say that 87% of agents don't make it in this business. So we're already up against the wall here. So I'm curious, where do you've been in this game long enough to observe, where do you see most agents struggle, and what is the best leadership or coaching advice that you would give them?
I see most agents struggle with lead gen. They come out of real estate school feeling like, okay, I know what to do now. And then they spend their time practicing. I'm going to learn all the forms. I'm going to know all the rules. I know how to do a search, super, super detailed search in the MLS. They've got it all on lock. And then they're waiting for the phone to ring. Like, okay, who wants me to do this new thing that I learned how to do for you? And nowhere in the coming up through the learning part of that do they ever learn, like, you're going to have to build a business. When you go into real estate, you're getting your real estate license, you're taking on two jobs. You have got to take on the job of business, marketing, broker of your own, your own success, and know how to do real estate. So I really focus on, just with new agents, making sure that they understand they have two full-time jobs in order to launch their business. And that falls through the cracks. A lot of people just don't realize that getting into this business. And I'm going to say something that a lot of people in real estate don't like to hear, but at least in the two states in which I'm licensed, the bar to entry to get a real estate license is not high. The education is doable. It's affordable. It's doable. If you put in a little energy and effort, you will pass a class. And if you put in a little energy and effort and a couple $100, you will get a license. And when the market is booming and real estate is hot, everybody goes out and gets a license. And I have a friend who used to say, this is a market where a head of cabbage could sell a house. And she wasn't wrong. When it's hot, it's hot. And now it's not so hot. It's not that hot out here right now. It's a little slow. Our inventory is low. Our buyers are afraid. There's unrest in the economy of, what's going to happen next. So real estate is not booming for us right now. And it's kind of the culling of the herd. People who got a license because it was easy enough to get, and I can make $20,000 because my aunt wants to buy a house. A lot of those people are now going back to their day jobs. And I think that's okay. The people that are able to persevere through the hard markets are the ones that are just kind of like digging in and doing the hard work. That's a good thing. Like, those are the agents that we want. So I think that people get into the market, into the industry, thinking it's going to be kind of easy and it's not that hard to get the license. So why not? And I think that there's just so much more to it that people need to learn. And one of the tools that we use through the locker room, with your first 90 days, the 19 things you didn't learn in real estate school, the Track Plus fills that gap. So the agents that are going to brokerages that are providing those kinds of tools definitely have the advantage.
That's really good insights, and completely agree. What I heard you say, writing a couple of things down here, is almost false expectations, not realizing once I get that license, I'm actually launching two businesses. The practice of real estate itself, but the lead generation side. I have to create the relationship side of the business. So it's the simultaneous building of things. It's not what it makes it seem on HGTV or some of these shows where I just get to show up and party and get big paychecks. No, this is hard freaking work, especially right now. So impromptu question back at you. Two questions. If there was two things you referenced, like the agents have that grit, they grind, they make it through these tough markets, what would be an example of two things that an agent should be doing right now, but especially at any time, like activity wise? Follow-up question, what's maybe a couple intangibles that you have seen behaviorally agents just have that thing, that mindset, that thing inside their belly that makes them succeed? So what should somebody be doing, and what are some of those intangibles that you see agents have that really thrive?
The thing I think people should be doing is really making themselves their local market expert, digging into the stats, digging into the MLS, knowing how to find the answers to every question. Because when the market is a little scary like this, people have questions. They have more questions than usual. We all know it's a common joke among real estate agents, where have you ever gone where the first thing somebody said to you is, how's the market? It's what we do. It's what people ask when they hear you're in real estate. But when things are a little, a little bit harder to navigate, you're going to have good answers to those questions. And it's a really good opportunity to learn to use the tools that are available to you through your MLS, through your local association, pulling those detailed stats for the neighborhoods that you farm or do the most business in, so that you can really give good, sensitive, informed answers to those questions while people are in such a state of curiosity about where's this all going. None of us have a crystal ball, but we certainly can educate ourselves on how long is it taking a house to move in this neighborhood? What is the median price? Those demographics, those stats that I think are super important. So that's something we've really been focusing on as a brokerage, is just helping agents make sure they know how to dig into that stuff. So that's kind of been like the action item that we're all working on right now, is just having good answers to help support people that are maybe confused, a little wigged out by this market.
What about some intangibles, just real quick, qualities, intangibles that any agent, any market, just they have that it factor? What would you say that is?
I would say the people that, and this is so funny because it's so not me, but it's those people with that bubbly personality that have never met a stranger, that are able to just really form quick relationships. I'm not that person. I'm the walk into the room and don't make eye contact for the first half hour person. But I have other people that I work with that are, well, my daughter is an agent, and we were in line. It was just hilarious. And this is a real story. We're in line at Costco, and I don't even know how it happened, but before we left, she's given her card to the lady in line behind us who's asking for the card. And whereas I am like head down, how much is this going to cost me? Where's my Costco card? And as we're leaving, we're out of the line, we're at the door exiting where they're counting your stuff, and the lady is coming up behind us going, "Hey, hold on a second, can I get your card? I wanted to ask you more about that." That is an intangible quality that is just part of her personality. And I see people who have that, and I'm definitely envious of it. And I think it really serves them well, not just in real estate, but almost in any industry.
Well, I'd love to hear from, if you're watching this right now, I want you guys to weigh in as I toss the ball back over to Shana for question number 2. But what is it that you think it takes for a real estate agent to succeed in any market? What are some of those intangibles, those qualities, those characteristics? Feel free to drop those in the comments. We'd love to hear what you have to say here as well. So Shana, I'm going to toss it back over to you for question number 2.
Okay. Question number 2. I have so many questions that I'm literally like choosing from a dozen questions right now on the fly. My second question for you is, where do you see the locker room going in the future? Like, what's your long-term plan? What's your eventual exit strategy? What's your number one goal of what you want to achieve with this business that you have so painstakingly built?
Well, then, again, kudos to you for such a great question. Put me on the spot. I would say, first of all, I am just as a fierce goal setter, visionary, futuristic person as anybody. That said, I also have this trait that I don't always need to know where I'm going, and I'm okay with that. Like, it doesn't wig me out if I don't have my next 3 to 5 years perfectly planned, or I also don't think it makes me a horrible leader if I can't say, "Oh, well, Shana, here's where I see myself in 10 years from now and exactly how I plan on getting there." I just don't. And here's why, is because right now in this stage of life I'm in, I'm having too much fun. Like, I love it. I love the challenges. I love the grind. I love coaching. I love leading other people. That in the foreseeable future, I'm doing exactly what I think I'm called to do. Now, that's not a great answer to your question.
No, that is a great answer, because you're in the groove right now. Why worry about what's coming next when you're having a great experience in the now?
Exactly. But to give some of that next, I love building community. So we've got something right now specific for independent broker owners called the RELC, Real Estate Leadership Circle.
Yes.
Shameless plug, relc.app, relc.app. Go join. But I love bringing...
An OG in the group.
Yes, you are. I love bringing groups of people together who started as strangers, but came together around a common purpose, a common vision, and created a movement after locking arms with one another forward. I love doing that. And so that's part of my future now, is to create more community within the RELC specifically. So we have regions, and we're kind of meetup groups or regional chapters, if you will, where we can do pop-up events and stuff like that. I love to create, you know this about me. So in the future, I see myself doing more content creation, whether it's writing books. I love designing courses and curriculums, maybe even doing that on a very high level, one-on-one kind of white label basis, where somebody can hire me to come in for, let's just call it 90 days, and create a custom curriculum that they own. It's not locker rooms, but I help create that, and doing more of that stuff. I've learned also in the future, as much as I'm flattered and I do enjoy in its own right speaking, it's not my favorite thing, ... to be on a stage in front of like thousands of people or hundreds of people. I love, however, what I'm going to refer to as micro events. So we've got one coming up relatively soon in Greenville, 30, 40 people there. Even smaller than that, where maybe I host a 2-day something or another here in Wisconsin, and people just travel in for those 2 days. And we roll up our sleeves, we get our jerseys dirty, and just hammer out stuff in a very small, tight-knit event kind of style thing, versus feeling like I need to travel the globe and, land $50,000 speaking gigs for 30 minutes. Like, it's just not my thing, so that's a little glimpse of where I go on top of coaching, content creation, more consulting or specific work designing content for organizations on a kind of just a consulting contract, a temporary kind of contract. And then I say, I'm done. You don't need me anymore. So that's where I see myself going.
I love that. It's like, but I love the whole vibe too of, I love where I am right now. And it's like, if more people could kind of dig into that energy, how much happier would the world be?
Well, and to that, so that's really hard. Just as a side note, is for me, it's been hard, of a certain level of acceptance. It's not complacency. I'm not a complacent person by any stretch, but being okay with now. My coaches, my team would tell you, it's like, Jake, stop screwing with stuff, man. Just let it be. Let the locker room be what it's meant to be. Because I'm a tinkerer. I get bored easy. I need variety. I feel like I'm always building and creating something. But to the core of it, you just got to let it do its thing and stop messing with it. And so this has been a learned behavior of mine, to just be okay with how things are now, to your point. And then if I need to tinker or I need variety, I can go over here. Example, I've been back to the community thing, because my background is in sports, baseball specifically. I've had it on my list to do now for about 2 years, to create a community called the Champions Network. The Champions Network, kind of like GoBundance and some of these more elite mastermind network type things, is specifically for former college and pro athletes who are now entrepreneurs. And like, I feel this calling to launch communities and some other verticals. And that scratches my itch for creativity, versus messing with the locker room, which is our bread and butter. This is our baby. I don't just let that be what it is, because it's damn good. And the people involved have incredible hearts, and the tools that we produce, we know work. So how creative or whatever do I really need to be when what works?
Yeah. That's a hard one for creative people.
Yeah.
Because you build it and then you're like, I can always make it a little better. And sometimes you have to leave it alone.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yep. Great question. My goodness. Okay. My third one for you then is, how have your past experiences as an agent helped shape your company and how you train agents to do business today? Like, is there an example of something you had to go through or overcome that you experienced? You're like, yeah, I didn't like that. And I'm taking a stand right now that no other agent has to go through what I went through. Just an example. So how have your past experiences as an agent helped shape the way you go about running and your brokerage and training agents today?
I have a double example, because it was like one incident that really gave me 2 big lessons. And I was a very brand new agent, And I mean, not a humble brag, but I've always been a good agent. I'm smart. I do good work. I had good sales right from the get-go. So I wasn't by any stretch struggling, but I was in one of my earliest transactions, and the agent on the other side, who is still an agent in my market, and he doesn't have a great reputation, and he's kind of a bully. He talks over women. He mansplains. He comes at the negotiation like, "Listen, little girl, let me tell you how it's going to work," which was not okay. So that put me on edge. Like right there, I'm like, I will not ever want anyone else to be treated this way. In concert with that, I had a managing broker who did not have my back in that scenario. And when I said, what do I do? Like, he should not, get away with this. He hasn't broken a law, but he's definitely he's not acting with good intent. And my managing broker was like, "Oh, that's just how he is. Everybody knows it." Those are two things that I really, really work hard with in my brokerage, that I want people to be treating other agents on the other side of a deal with integrity and kindness. We don't have to be bullies and jerks in order to, really advocate for our clients. We can do that without making somebody on the other side of the transaction feel like a jerk, or like they don't know what they're doing. And the situation of feeling like my broker didn't have my back, I try really hard to make sure that none of the agents who work with me ever feel that way. And the feedback I get from them is always really affirming in that, where it's like, "Thank you so much for stepping in with me on this when I needed you." So those two things really have shaped the way I run my brokerage.
And thank you for that. That's why I love asking leaders questions like that one, is because, surprise, surprise, I've often found that your answer to that, if it's real, if it's congruent, generally ties directly back to my first question, which was, tell me about your unique value proposition. Why should I, as an agent, did y'all hear that?
I did not even put it together until you just said it, but yeah, absolutely.
That's what, partly why. And again, I say this with a disclaimer so we don't send out the wrong message here, but you tend to favor, or women specifically, you said, thrive in your culture, in your environment. Well, I heard something you say speak directly to that, and especially why you want that family tight-knit culture, to where you're okay being part of the value proposition, because you have felt what it's like when your broker didn't have your back, and you carry that chip on your shoulder saying, "I'm never going to be that person to people when I'm in a leadership position." And so you're doing it. That question ties directly back to some of your core value proposition pieces.
You did it. You got me.
No, it's not.
No. It's not a gotcha, but I love that. And as I was answering that question, I had no conscious tying it back to, and that's where it came from.
That's the best part. I know you didn't. I was listening for it, and that's my job to draw attention to the consistency, the congruency, that that's not just hype, that's not just fluff, that's not you just spending 30 minutes one day saying, "Yeah, I think this is what agents want to hear, so this is going to be our mission statement. This is going to be our value."
Right.
No, that came deep from within through your own experiences that carved that out into how you're living and leading now, which I think is pretty cool. So, great stuff.
Gave me a little shiver. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever. Your turn. Last one.
My last question for you is not so much about business, because we know each other. I know that you are a very actively involved, hands-on parent with your two daughters, who are still, my youngest is 26. So you're still in the trenches of parenting young children. And they're not babies, but you know what I mean. How would you, as a parent with the life experiences that you've had, feel about one of your daughters wanting to become a professional athlete?
Oh my gosh. Did you Google these questions or something to ask? Okay, so restate the question word. If one of my daughters wanted to become a professional athlete, how would I feel about that?
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people who become a professional athlete don't have a parent who was a professional athlete, but you're somebody who knows the blood, sweat, and tears that went into that.
I would say I've got two of the best role models on earth to answer this one, and that's my mom and dad. And they watch these, so shout out mom and dad. And here's what I would say, honestly, and this is what I would say to anything you ask me to fill in the blank. Forget professional athlete, it's teacher, it's a vet tech. I don't care. The way I was raised with myself and my two sisters was my parents empowered us to make decisions and always know that whatever the outcome, you owned it. You're making the decision, therefore you live with the consequences or whatever of that decision. And so it wasn't exactly popular. People can't tell right now. Quick backstory. So I'm 6'6". You can't tell that. I'm a big dude, right? And so I went to high school in Oneida, Illinois. The high school was called ROVA, ROWVA, because it was 5 small towns that merged together to create one high school with 200 kids in it total, 50 in my graduating class. So we're in just Podunk, Illinois, in the middle of the cornfields. It wasn't popular when, after my sophomore year, I decided to stop playing basketball. And I was pretty good. Okay. I was pretty good at basketball. But I chose to go all in with baseball because I knew that was my heart. That's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to prove myself and the haters wrong that no, it doesn't matter where you're from. If the talent is there, they will find you. And they found me. And I share that because there's so many examples of in my life of that. As I'm sure many of you watching this have too, those are defining moments. It was not popular, but it was congruent and consistent with what I wanted for myself. Okay. And those are sometimes two very different things because the outside likes to chirp in your ear telling you what you're supposed to do through their lens. So as somebody who is 6'6", pretty good at basketball, that chose not to play his junior and senior years, that's not a popular choice, but it did shape. And I share that because my parents supported me. I know they hated it. I know they wanted to see me out there and playing all the sports, but the way they handled it with me made me feel supported, loved, empowered. They had my back and they said, okay, if this is what you want to do, then go do that. But don't you dare look back and don't you dare second guess it. Go do it. Okay. So my final, to bring that all full circle, is if my daughters said, Dad, we want to be a professional, insert the blank, especially in sports, I would say, great. I support you in that. What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice? Let's make sure we test the angles and the probabilities that whatever you say yes to means you're saying no to something else. Are you clear on what that something else is? As long as it's deep seated, you can feel the belief overflowing from their heart, then who am I to say what they can and can't do? I'll support them as long and as far as they can take it. But just know, if you succeed, good for you. You own that. But if you don't, you own that too. And you're going to learn a heck of a lot of things along the way that's going to serve you and propel you to whatever is next and whatever God places in your path. So I would just support them just same way my parents supported me, and encourage them, give them every tool and resource and opportunity available to them to position them in a way that allows them to be elite at whatever it is, sports or otherwise.
Good answer. They're lucky girls. They've got a good dad who's got their back. I wish every kid had that.
I thank you. And it's not just me. Carissa is super.
Yeah,
mom. You know that. Yeah.
Lucky girls.
But we share that. Like if she was here answering that same question, we encourage, we give tough love when it needs to be there. But at the end of the day, you're not a product of your circumstances. Woe is me, I'm a victim. You are a product of your decisions. So Ava or Addie, if you're going to decide to do this and focus all your heart and energy into it, I got your back. I'm the first one there cheering, hanging up against the fence, rattling that thing, saying, let's go. But I'm also going to be the first one to say, you blew it. And if you're open for coaching and correction, here's what I think you can do better next time. And I'll also be the first one to pick them up and dust them off whenever that final game was played, the final second ticks off the scoreboard, and say, that part of your life is over. But what can you learn from that and apply into your next endeavor? And I think that's the big, beautiful masterpiece that we're all creating as we're living this thing called life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer.
Well, thank you for the question. Good stuff. Okay. I didn't prepare you for this one, but if you were to land the plane, just any last minute, we've got broker owners watching this, they're commenting. We got agents who watch this, just any last minute words of wisdom or advice, that one crunchy thing you'd like to leave everybody with today before we break?
I would say to try to come into this hard season of real estate that we're in with an abundance mindset versus that scarcity mindset. There is good people are still doing good work, and that never changes. It's good people are doing good work. So stay on your path. Don't get sidetracked into, well, here's a shortcut. Maybe I'll just try that just for right now. Just stay in your lane, stay in your integrity, and ultimately it's going to have its own reward.
So good. And I love how you just brought that. You could have answered that anyways, a tactic, a strategy. You brought it back to mindset. And I love that, being a person of abundance and optimism rather than one of scarcity and pessimism. You know, it's called mindset. We get to set our mind. That is a choice every day when we wake up. Do I choose to be happy? Do I choose gratitude? Or do I choose to be a victim and somebody who's going to make excuses and just settle for complacency when you know God or whatever your spiritual beliefs are put that thought in your heart, in your mind for a reason, because he also equipped you with the ability to go get it done. So I love that, Shana. Thank you so much for spending the last 50 minutes with us here on the Broker Showdown. Absolutely awesome. I would expect
Thank
nothing
you.
less
Thank you for
from
the
you.
opportunity. It's always fun to get together with you, Jake.
Yes, likewise, I share that for sure. So you guys give it up for her in the comments. Let her know what you got from this. Share your takeaways. But Shana, last question: if somebody wanted to connect with you, how might they go about doing that?
Oh, okay. Our brokerage is active in social media. So if you look for Cascadian Northwest Real Estate on either Facebook or Instagram, you will find us.
Cascadian Northwest Real Estate and Shana O'Brien. So she's no stranger. You can find her on the socials. But yeah,
And
definitely
in
connect.
the RELC, you can find me in there.
Can in the RELC community. That's right. Thank you for that. Well, we're so grateful. Tressa says she loved it. Thanks for sharing. Yes, you
Thanks,
got a lot of
Tressa.
comments and love coming your way here. So until next time, I think we should do this again. What do you think?
Oh, I think, yeah, I told you, I've still got like 8 more questions.
That's kind of
So
scary. Good Lord. You have some humdingers today. I got to give you props there. That was good. All right. Well, thank you all
keep
for
it
tuning
interesting.
in. Appreciate you so much. And we'll talk soon, Jana. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.